Hello, Profit Hackers. I'm Jeremy Lott, the Chief Visionary for Foundation Accounting and Consulting. I owned a construction company for about 15 years before making a change to accounting because my accountants sucked. My goals are to simplify accounting for construction company owners, fuel your profits, level up your cash flow, and help you grow in a financially responsible way. So let's go. Hello, Profit Hackers, and welcome back to the Contractors Profit Hack Show. I'm Jeremy Lott, the host, and I am with Foundation Accounting and Consulting. And we are talking today a little bit more about job costing, specifically having budgets for your job, right? Okay, so when we were first married, my wife and I got really excited about owning our own house someday. And as a horticulturist and landscape designer, I got a lot of magazines, a lot of different things, because back in the day, that's how you got ideas. One of the ways that you got ideas, because there really wasn't much on the internet, really wasn't much of an internet. But I would flip through magazines and get different ideas for doing design work. Well, in those different magazines, they had all kinds of really cool things that you could, different products and different ideas for your house in general. And so we started clipping things out and storing them in a box, and that was our dream box, because these were all the things we were going to include in our house someday when we had our dream house, right? These were all the different elements we were going to include with that. And we collected those for several years, and I was super ambitious and kept dreaming super big. After the bankruptcy and through some other struggles with addiction and rehab and all of that, I ended up in that deep depression. And I've spoken about this a little bit before, but in the throes of that addiction, I started becoming okay with failure. I started making a habit out of quitting on things and not being dependable. And it's really hard for me to talk about, because it was a really rough time in my life. I thankfully have been able to turn that around and started dreaming again. But for quite a period of time there, I had stopped completely. I had very little satisfaction in life. I wasn't dreaming about big things. I was just kind of chugging along and surviving every day. And that's really no way to live. It's really pretty awful, right? And another big point with that is that when you don't have expectations, then you have no control over the end product and what happens. And I want to compare that to job budgets for job costing, right? You've got to upfront have an idea of what it is you want to be able to accomplish and what the parameters are for it before you go into it. Because if you just jump into a job and start on it, then there's going to be no control over the end product, right? So let's rewind all the way back to working on our estimating. When we're talking about our estimating, what we are looking to do is we are looking to basically create budgets for each portion of our work. So remember, we started with a process and documenting a process, and then we figure out the costs for each step of the process. what we're actually doing when we're figuring out the number of hours for each step and the material costs and the sub costs and the dumpster costs and the equipment rental costs, all of those things, when we're figuring those out for each step, really what we're doing is we're creating a budget. And with that budget, we now have a plan. So here's the way to make the best possible use of that. The project managers, your foreman, the people in charge of the job need to know what that budget is. They need to know the number of hours that they have for each step. They need to know the amount they have for materials for each step and for the subs and so on, right? If you can present them with that budget ahead of time, now there's a goal to shoot for. Now, obviously, adjustments do have to be made throughout time, right? And as you do this more, then you'll become more and more accurate on your estimating. But we at least need targets to shoot for, right? Once we have targets, then we can start tracking efficiency, right? We can create different codes for our payroll that help us to track the different steps in the process and what they're doing. We can create different codes in your accounting software to track the different materials for different steps in the process, right? And then at the end of the job, we can go back and compare that to the original budget, and we can see how we did. We can see how we did both on the bid initially, and we can see how our crews did as far as efficiency, right? So there will always be a variance between the budget and the actual. The key is to be able to determine if you were too ambitious or eager with your initial numbers in the bid, or if there are things that can be done to improve the process of the install to be able to meet the budget or be under the budget, right? Now, one other comment here to throw in to go along with the tracking efficiency and having job budgets. This is a great opportunity to be able to incentivize the leaders in your company, your foremen, your project managers, all of these kind of people, your supers, whatever you call them. If you give them a budget and tell them that they will get a percentage of the profit for every dollar under the budget, now all of a sudden they have something to work harder for and to do a better job at in order to be able to make more money for themselves. And it doesn't always even have to be just money. You can say, hey, if you can beat this budget by 5%, you'll all get a gift card for the movies or to go eat somewhere. Or I'll take you all to a sporting event or golfing or whatever the case may be, right? It doesn't have to be money. What it needs to be is public recognition, right? So you set the goal, you track the goal, then you reward for beating the goal, right? So that's another great reason to do job costing, is so that you can have excuses to be able to incentivize your crews and be able to reward them and recognize them for their hard work. And the great thing about all this is that when they are more efficient and they're getting that public recognition, they're happy, you're making more money, so you're happy, and you create a healthier environment where there is a healthy level of competition going on that keeps people engaged and interested in working hard for you. So I highly suggest using budgets, starting with your estimating, tracking those budgets, and then incentivizing your crews in order to be able to do better than what the budget is. So this is Jeremy with Foundation Accounting and Consulting. It's been great talking with you today a little bit more about job costing and about budgets for the job, for specific jobs. And hopefully you will take this away and implement it and increase your efficiency and increase the overall satisfaction with your culture there at your business. So I will talk to you guys next episode. Thanks for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please like and subscribe for weekly episodes to help you fuel your profit, level up your cash flow, and finance your growth. Until next time, go enjoy some green M&Ms and protect that cash.